I really wanted to be here to discuss this because obviously, like Dara, I'm from Mayo. And in the context of the Atlantic Economic Corridor and the importance of the Western Rail Corridor. Is the Western Rail Corridor shovel ready? If the funding was to be provided tomorrow morning, the strong business case that's obviously been made by Dr. John Bradley, I have read that with note, and I have read the other reports as well. And one of the weaknesses that we have is that where you have any cost-benefit analysis done, if population is to be the variable, the overriding variable, we will never, ever get anything done. And we are getting really tired in the West and in Mayo of the double-speak that's going on around the Western Rail Corridor, the Atlantic Economic Corridor. I was absolutely delighted with the Atlantic Economic Corridor because I thought, at last, this is something we can hang everything to. We can have the vital pieces of infrastructure there. We know where we're going. There's a strategic joined-up approach here. And I commended government for it and everybody involved in it. And I want to maybe come to you after this, Mike. You know, where has that gone? And why is there so much double speak around these projects and around the initiatives? But my first question is the Atlantic Economic Corridor shovel ready?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Iran Rothirden have confirmed that to us, that if they got the go-ahead, they would be prepared to move on it without delay. It is first that if the government were to finance the Western Rail Corridor, which will cost, according to Dr. Bradley's estimate, 154 million, that it could proceed without very much delay, and that it could be completed within 3 to 4 years. We're talking about the section from Athenry to Claremorris, which would link, obviously, Ballina Inland Port, then to Foynes Port, to Cork, to Waterford, and would obviously link the towns of Claremorris, Castlebar, Westport, Ballina, Tuam, to our regional capital in Galway.
I'm confused. If there is so much political support for it, and every politician I speak to, bar very, very few, seem to recognise the importance of it, why isn't it happening? And then why do we get a 10T report which leaves it out of the core projects again? I just want to ask you, Mike, around the Atlantic Economic Corridor, where is it and how important is rail infrastructure to that?
I think the problem that we have now, though, is that it's about ambition. It's about where people want to go. Correct. And that's the imbalance. Then you have to put in very significant investment to create some form of value-add activity, like large fabrication plants, large biopharma plants, and so on. And to do that, you need to have this backbone with all of the utilities prioritised on it, so those utilities can be used. So we know, for example, that if we take one of the proposed developments outside of Galway for the data centre, we know that that was only possible because it's the only place.
And Mike, I'm going to, because we have really limited time here. So the question that's coming in my head is, why are we then gone to a region in transition, and why do we see from the recent CSO figures that the income inequality is 3 times, the gap for the income equality is 3 times larger?
Yes, and so, Deputy, the simple answer to your question is, we are not setting out clearly, from a political point of view and from a government point of view, we are not setting out what the economic guidance should be. What is the level of economic activity that you expect along that axis? Now, if you set that out correctly, then you won't be in here talking about opening the railway. It'll just be a done deal because it's obvious you have to do it. So my belief is the gap is that the political system and the government system does not have the ambition that it needs, and it's not setting out the economic guidance that's necessary to allow the type of investment we're talking about to come about. That's a short answer to your question.
Just as a small microcosm, there's 1,000 acres of land, state-owned land, earmarked for development between Athenry and Galway City. 1,000 acres. Every acre of it is served by this railway. The railway. But you could get on a train in Claremorris or Castlebar, get straight in onto site into 1,000 acres for economic development. Those places are going to drive the west of Ireland. We can't give up any inch of advantage we have. And, you know, the Western Rail Corridor is a fundamental part of that. We've Bonham Quay development in Galway City. It's an office development in the city, no parking, because it's right beside the railway station. And that's the reason it got its planning permission, because it's right beside the railway, minimal parking. And 1,000 office jobs there. You're going to have to come in on a train, get off the train, go to work. So rail is the future.
And this is where, you know, we do our own sort of search and lobby inside of Brussels to find out, you know, how do we move this thing forward. And the answer is as recent as from an advisor 2 days ago. The answer is always, well, we think what you're doing is a great idea and it's important and it's within what Europe is trying to do, but your government is not supporting it and we're not hearing it from them. So you better convince them that you want to do this.
Understanding as well, because obviously we have gone to Brussels and we've got the same answers there as well. So I think there's very serious questions to be asked around it. The rail review is our last opportunity. I think the Minister has said that that's going to be published in the summer, in late summer. We really need to see this project in the rail review properly recognised. I'm covering the Education Committee as well, the USI and all of the stakeholders there are really concerned about the lack of transport. We have the Technological University, which we are thrilled and delighted about. But the impact that that's going to have is going to be curtailed if we don't have the public transport infrastructure to go with that. So,
if I may just make a point. The Minister said in the Dáil on Thursday last that he now expects this report to be ready around the end of the year. So it's continually moving back in time. If Arab does not recognise that and come forward with proposals for the development of rail in that area, as well as the billions which have been earmarked for Dublin and for the East, which we don't begrudge them. They need them. We've heard today why they need them. But if they cannot give us a meagre 154 million to open a key piece of infrastructure, then that will tell us a great deal about how Arab was constituted and set up to arrive at those conclusions. And you've asked questions there that I think you'd be better addressing to the Department of Transport as to why these reports continually keep coming up with the same answer.